Hello mommies and daddies, and welcome to your Growth Toy Buy Guide for 2022, where we'll look at play through an occupational therapy lens. In occupational therapy, we put extreme importance into play. We use it as a means or modality to help develop skills and milestones that we want our children to achieve. On another end, we use it as a goal or outcome that we want our children to achieve, especially those who have a hard time participating with other kids, such as those with autism, ADHD, or Down syndrome. And with that, I welcome you to the Toy Buy Guide for 12 years and up. We're entering adolescence, and as you can see, we don't have any toys on the table. This is because the focus in this age group is not play per se, but we're gonna talk about in this video the way that play transforms and influences other areas of occupation. We're gonna look at the ideal situation that happens when they develop milestones for leisure, for instrumental activities of daily living, for social participation, and preparation for work. For this age group, between 12 to 18 years old, you're gonna have varying stages depending on where they are in their adolescence. It could be in early, middle, or late stages because we're looking at a very wide range in this age group. So you can have an easy or a difficult time depending on so many factors. Number one, we're looking at the relationship that you have with your child, and it depends on how well you've built that connection in the earlier stages. The best indicator that you have for that is how open they are in expressing themselves and communicating their emotions around you. The next factor here is if your child will have problems developing these new occupations, especially if they have a diagnosis. Their development in earlier childhood might be affected if they had autism, ADHD, Down syndrome, cerebral palsy, or other childhood conditions that affected the way they achieve other areas of development. So any delays that they could have in their social, emotional development, their motor or cognitive development could also affect their performance in adolescence. Because aside from the challenge that they have in their social circles, as well as their academic performance, this is where they will go through their self-development, where they get to know and develop their own personal values. We have seen the way children develop from attaching with a parent, moving away towards their peer groups, and this time, they're gonna form a personal identity. That is why, as we see, we don't have any toys because it really depends not just on their interests, but also their values, what they believe in, what they see as right, and what they see themselves in the future doing. Given all these changes and the difficulties that your teenager might experience, the last factor that can affect this is the access that they can get to services. Based on the challenges you'll experience, this is when you're going to meet new professionals as well. At this age group, this is when I refer my children to a psychologist, a psychiatrist, or an OT who is specializing in work or vocational training so that they can transition well within their adolescent period and also towards adulthood. There are two goals that you want to achieve in this age group. The first one is that your child will know that you are a secure attachment point for them. They are going through a lot of changes with their own selves and their bodies, with the way they handle relationships, and also the demands that come from school. That means despite all the changes that's happening, everything going out of their control, and also them trying to establish this personal identity, they know and they are assured that they have you as somebody they can run to when things get rough. The second one is that they will develop problem-solving strategies to help them deal with all the changes they're gonna go through. They will be involved in so many individual experiences that you may or may not have experienced in your own teenage life. So that means they need to be able to adapt and also to build up on these values and principles so that whether they have these specific problems, they would be able to go back into what they really believe in and to also be able to stand up for themselves, stand up for the things that are important for them. So at this point, we're gonna look at puberty, not as a milestone, but just to see what they go through, the changes that we expect, because ultimately this will affect the development of the four areas we're gonna talk about later. So in puberty, they're gonna look at the physical development and also the psychosocial development. Now, out of the physical development, we know that there are so many things that happens to your body because of the hormones. That means changes in height, in terms of body hair, and also your reproductive development. Now, the important part here is that we want our children to develop a positive body image. This is because they're very conscious, they're gonna keep comparing themselves to other kids, and also try to question all the changes that happens to their body, like is this really part of puberty or is something wrong with me? So we want them to develop this positive body image and to develop healthy habits that will lead to health and wellness. Now for psychosocial development, we're gonna look at the changes that happen in the relationships they have in this age group. They're trying to learn about themselves based on the changes that they're going through. They're going to question all the things that they've learned in early childhood. Now, this could be affected by the peer group they belong to because they could be surrounded by friends who now have different values than they hold. Especially if your child could be surrounded by friends who are involved in bad habits. You might want to make sure that they are surrounded by classmates or friends that provide a positive social influence. This way, they would be able to develop this personal identity in a positive, supportive environment. Next, you're gonna expect some changes in their interactions with you because they're trying to question themselves and the things that they believe in. You will see that you could have a difficult, turbulent time in the early years of their adolescence. Now, you're gonna have a rocky start as they enter all these changes. They could be spending less time with you. You can see a lot of resistance or no into joining family activities and more into activities that they enjoy themselves. Now, you might think that your teenager is going away from you, getting further away. But at this time, you just want to provide support and let them know again that you are ready to be there for them. But the good news is that after they go through these troubling times from the early and the middle adolescence, is that they will see you at late adolescence as a source of wisdom and also advice. So before they enter adulthood, you will see that you will have your relationship rebuilt with your teenager or even stronger than it was before adolescence. The first milestone for this age group is leisure. Now, this area of occupation is kind of a level up from the entire play occupation because leisure has a different goal on its own. So in comparison to play, leisure doesn't have all this goal for skill development or social development or for engagement with you. Leisure is really just focused on how they use their free time, which means it's highly dependent on the things they are interested in. In leisure, as children participate in activities based on their interest, the focus is really just on enjoyment and pleasure. So we want them to participate and engage in activities that are healthy for them. So these could be activities where they could develop a passion for photography. You could give them a camera or a cell phone at this point. You could also have them focus on fashion where they develop a love for clothes, patterns, and styling. It could also be an area for technology where they learn about coding or creating and engineering. So it really depends on what they could use in their free time, and this is highly dependent on what materials you have at home. So if your family is into traveling, of course they would develop this love for traveling because they will engage in riding airplanes, visiting new places, being immersed into different cultures. If your family loves the outdoors, so they would of course love going camping, trekking, hiking. If you are more sedentary, they would get an interest and inclination towards books and learning, or it could be scientific experiments, or it really depends on what you expose them. So you might find this an exploratory stage for them, so they could also go out of those that are available and try out something new. And what you can do here is to really be there to remind them of safety concerns. It's all well and good if you can supervise them all the time, but we know they're gonna explore and really just try to expand the limits of what they can do on their own. The problem you want to avoid here is that they will engage in activities that are unhealthy for them. Especially in late adolescence, they might be engaged in a peer group who would explore or experiment with alcohol and smoking. So of course, that's why we let them be engaged in these healthier leisure options so that they will not engage in these unhealthy, destructive habits. The second milestone is instrumental activities of daily living. Now, we know that activities of daily living, or ADLs, are focused on self-care. Now, this time, instrumental ADLs or IADLs are focused on caring for other people. By caring for others, you can start by giving your child a pet. At this age, as they enter adolescence, you can give them more responsibilities. So not just feeding the pet, but also they could give baths, they could also schedule appointments for visits to the vet, and also planning out giving medications, or maybe incorporating the pet into their routine. Like taking your pet out for a walk, or setting play dates with other pets in a park, or setting a monthly appointment for their grooming. Children at this age group can also be trusted with responsibilities related to taking care of their younger siblings. So they could help out in preparing food or feeding their younger sibling. They could be assigned to teaching chores and doing chores together, like making the bed, packing toys away, or cleaning the room. And this relates to the next part, because regardless if your child has a sibling or not, the next part is them taking care of the home. So that means they could be involved in all types of chores. Now you could have them do laundry, do the dishes, also clean the car, and even make sure of safety procedures. Like they could already learn what to do aside from fires, earthquakes. You could teach them how to use a fire extinguisher, calling emergency hotlines as well, so that they will know what to do, especially if they're left alone at home. Toys or activities that you can provide for your child here would be to go on a shopping trip together. Now, this doesn't just include toys, this could include clothes or things that you want, because IADLs also involve going out into the community. So this involves using transportation, also managing money, and also trying to budget. So you could focus more rather than the shopping itself. You could look at the process of how they try to problem solve, how they budget, how they select objects they want to buy based on this specific budget. So you can work on planning, budgeting, selecting products based on the price in comparison to the value that it provides. So you can already pass on some lessons here on how they manage money, even introducing concepts of saving and investing at this part. So that could be good if you've already introduced that at a younger age, but this time they're much more ready to take on advanced concepts and also planning out for the future. So you could already introduce to them more complex finance terms, and you could really focus on teaching them all these lessons in a fun way. The third milestone is social participation, and this is just a follow-up of what we said would be the psychosocial changes they'll go through in puberty. So, as we've said, they're going to move away from the peer group and then develop this sense of personal identity, and also with you, where they will go through a rocky relationship and then later on rebuild this strong bond together. What you want to do at this point is you could do this inventory of leisure activities with your child and then ask them which ones they really enjoy. And with that, you could see a trend of what really gets their attention, and also try to expand on activities that are related to that. For example, they love food, so you could see that the activities you could introduce would be cooking, baking, or maybe eating out in restaurants. Or if they like fashion, you could give them some makeup or some clothes, or teach them how to sew. If they like sports or movement, you could enroll them in classes or summer clinics so that they could learn about board games or water sports. So this time you could really expand, and they could even try out some extreme sports. And this would really be focused more on the multiple intelligences, where they could try to evaluate themselves based on their strengths and weaknesses. Here you can hear me repeating some words, and that is because social participation is really integrated in the other areas of occupation, because we interact with other people in leisure, in IADLs, and later with the next milestone. And so, all of them are interconnected. And what you can do for social participation is to choose and be able to establish these routines that you can spend together. So you can start out a family routine or ritual that is really a bond for your family, that regardless of what age they're in or whatever it is they're trying out, you still really need this time that you could spend together. In my family, that includes family dinners. Like, we would never start eating unless everybody is already seated around the table. We would really see dinner as something that's really important, where you check on other people, where you try to catch up and also share anything that you want. That also includes like rituals for holidays, like where do you spend Christmas or New Year or any other anniversary that you spend together as a family. Because as they move on towards adulthood, this is something that they could bring and also try to observe in their own families. So what you could buy here would be focused on experiences. You could buy them vouchers for an activity, maybe a visit to an amusement park, or maybe a spa date, or a restaurant. So an experience that they can have, which you can also set as a Christmas tradition or an annual family event. Number 4, and the last milestone for this age group, is work. Now at adolescence, what you want is for them to develop pre-vocational skills, and if not, you could start with just pre-vocational exploration, where they will try out different things and then see what they're good at. The goal here is not about the money that they will earn or how much they earn through these experiences, but more on their development of a positive self-esteem. A teenager who has positive self-esteem, well, you would see it in the way that they carry themselves and also in how they interact with other people. You would see it if they are able to have eye contact, if they can express and communicate their opinions freely and confidently, and if they could speak in their first language without pauses, and also in how they maintain their body posture in relation to other people. The things you can do for your teenager here, you can have a bring your team to work day, where you will expose them to what you are good at, your work. So you can have them be exposed to your workmates, try to see your work routine, and also let them see another perspective of you, another dimension of you, which is separate from you as a parent at home. So they will see you perform, they will see you, be active at work, and really explore also that other side of you that they don't get to see daily. The next thing you can do is let them participate in a summer job or maybe immerse in your family business, so that they will be immersed in the culture and also try to see the operations. With this, they can practice the skills and see how you do administration or sales or marketing. And another thing you can do is let them volunteer. In this way, they could develop their skills and at the same time help out other people. Now, of course, these doesn't sound gifts or things you can give them anymore. But what you can give here would be time exploring how they could turn their interests into possible career paths. So if your child is interested in sports, you can explore how they could turn into professional players. Or for musical instruments, how they can have music as a potential career. Or if it's related to food, or technology, fashion, or if they want to be doctors, lawyers, engineers, that's what we hear from our Asian parents. So, you can explore and look at ways where they could turn what they love doing into things that they can earn from. And that's it for things you can do for your child at 12 years and up. Comment down below anything you want to buy for your child at 12 years and up, and subscribe to our channel so you can check out other videos we're gonna put out after this series. And remember, it's not about the toy, it's about the time you spend playing together that matters.